What's up, guys? So today we're gonna go over the major scale and why it's so important, and it will also show you how you can use the major scale formula to be able to teach yourself different keys outside of just like maybe C major or F major. Teach you how to play all the 12 keys. But we'll just do a quick introduction to get you going, and hope it will be a blessing for you. Let's go. So the major scale, tells us first of all which notes are in a particular scale. Like for example, the C major scale. So which notes are in this C major scale? The major scale explains what chords are in the C major scale. It also helps to um, tell you which notes are in a particular chords, and then it also helps you to determine which notes are in other keys as well. All right. So today we're just gonna keep it simple as an introduction and show you how you can start to utilize the major scale to really teach you how to play in different keys outside of just the C major scale. All right, so the C major scale is very simple here. So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, right? So just seven notes. And then, but how did that come about, right? How do we know those are the right notes? So the C major scale has a formula, okay? And the formula is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Or in other words, whole step. So whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Or in other words, but even before getting into how that formula came about, let's just understand how the keyboard works here, or music really works here, right? So when you're in C, what's the closest note you think when you're going to the right side of the keyboard, right? The next note, is it D? Or hopefully you said it's this note here. So what note is this? So this is exactly what the major scale can help to explain. So this is C, and on the keyboard, when you're going to the right side, this is going to be C sharp, right? Because we're going right. So C sharp. If we were on D and then we were going left, so we're going backwards or left, this would be D flat, okay? And then so really, because there's a note between C and D, that's why this is called a half step. So from C to C sharp is a half step, okay? All right, and then from C sharp to D, this is another half step. So one of the first things to know in the major scale is that two half steps is a whole step. Okay, so make sure you memorize that. That's a good rule to just memorize that. Two half steps will create a whole step. So that's how you get a whole step. So in other words, from C to D, you have to take a half step and another half step to get to second half step to get to D, right? So that's how we have a whole step. Okay, great. And then from D to E is another half step, or whole step to from D to E. Great. So that's how we were able to get there, right? And then from E to F, is there any key in between E and F? No, there's no black keys there. So that's why from E to F, it's always a half step. Okay. The C major scale is actually like the perfect major scale. All right. Because there's no sharps or flats in it. It's all just the white keys here. All right. And then from F to G is a whole step, right? And then from G to A is another whole step, right? Great. And then from A to B is another whole step. All right. So now when we go back to C, we can say root. I like to add in root because I feel like it makes it easier to really understand. Sometimes so that you don't get confused and know that you don't take a step on C. So if you're on C, do you take a step? No, you don't take a half step or whole step, right? Good. So that's why I just say, hey, if you happen to play in C or F, then let's just keep it simple here. If you're playing in C, just think of that as root. So I like to add root and say, so remember the major scale is root, whole, whole, half, right? Whole, 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 half. All right, so that's how we know that this is root or one in the major scale of C. And then that's how we know in the key of C that D is two, because of the major scale. It says you have to take a whole step from the root. You got to take a whole step from C to D to get to the second interval in that scale, right? So root, whole, whole, half, right? And then another way you can also think of it is root, 2 wholes and a half, right? So root, first whole step, second whole step, half step, right? And then from that first half step is going to be 3 wholes and a half step. So another way to, if it helps to memorize the major scale, is root, 2 whole steps, half step, 3 whole steps, half step. So root, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Great. All right. So that's why we know that C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, and then B is 7 in the C major scale because of the major scale formula. All right, great. And that's how so that's how we get those numbers. Okay, and then again, so when you have these numbers, so how do you use that? How do you utilize the major scale? How does it help you to play in other keys, right? So, well, guess what? The major scale pattern, that root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, that major scale formula never changes, right? It doesn't matter what key you're in. It doesn't matter any key, any of these keys here. You can use the major scale to learn to figure out what's the 1 in this key, right? What's the 2 in this key? What's the 3? What's the 4? What's the 5? What's the 6? What's the 7? 8, etc. Right? Okay, so for example here, if we use how great is our God, how great, right? How great is our God. 1. So it's just 1. So the chord progression here is just going to be 1, 6, 4, and then 5. Like if you want to, yeah, you can play 1, 6, 4, 5 to keep it simple. All right, and it's how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. All will sing, how great is our God. Well, right, let's do that again. How great is our God. 1 to 6 is our God. All will see how great. 4. How great is our God. So 1, 6, 4, 5, right? Great. So using the major scale here, we were able to figure out what's the 1 chord, the 6 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord in the key of C major. Now, how do we utilize the major scale to help us figure out what's the all of the 1 through 7 chords in the key of F major, as an example? So, well, guess what? The major scale formula doesn't change, right? So if we're playing in the key of F major is now, all it means is that we now start on F. So that's why F is 1, or more importantly, now 1 is the root of the major scale. Okay, so in other words, we're going to say root. We're just going to apply the major scale formula to show you why the major scale can help you play in a different key like F major. So root, whole, whole, half. Okay, whole, 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 half. All right. So in other words, when we apply the major scale formula of root, okay, take a whole step, root, whole, whole. A lot of people like to get confused here and think this is the next step, but this is the next note, but this is not the next note in the key of F major, right? Because if major scale formula says is root, whole, whole, not a whole step, right? Because it's from A to B. So this is A sharp or B flat, and then from B flat to B, that's 2 half steps, right? So from A to B is 2 half steps, right? And that's not what we're trying to do because of the major scale. So major scale says to do A to B flat because major scale says to use a half step, right? So it's root, whole, whole, half, not root, whole, 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 right? Okay, so that's why we go to B flat here. because the major scale formula says there's a half step after the first two whole steps. Great. So root, whole, whole, half, and then now we have three whole steps next, right? Whole, 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 and then end on a half. All right. So that's why these are that's why this is 1 in the key of F. And then, so F is 1, G is 2, and then 3 is A, and then B flat is 4, C is 5, D is going to be 6, E will be the 7th, and then 8 or 1 is back to the root of F major scale. And then again, so now we know what's 1 through 7 in F, right? Okay. And then more importantly now, we can play our major and minor triads in the key of F, okay? So we also now need to go through and figure out what do we play for each of the chords, okay? So another quick shortcut here that you should also memorize is that in the major scale, your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord will always be major, right? Let me just go back quickly to C, key of C, just to make it simple for you. So that's why C major is a major chord instead of a minor chord, because in the major scale, your 1 chord generally is a major chord. So that's why you play a major chord on when you're back in C, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. So this is if your 1 chord is always major, that's why we play in the key of C, C major, and then the 4 chord is always a major chord. So that's why we play F major. 5 chord is always a major chord. That's why we play a G major here. And then another, so your 1, 4, 5s are always major, and then your 2, 3, 6 chords are always minor chords, okay? So that's why we play a D minor chord, E minor chord for the 3, and then the A minor for the 6 chord. All right, so your 2 chord, your 3 chord, and your 6 chord is always a minor chord in the major scale, and then the 7th chord is always a diminished chord. Okay, so in the similar fashion, if we move it back now to F major, that's why for our 1 chord we play a major chord, because the major scale formula, we always play 1, 4, 5 are always major chords. Your 2, 3, 6 chords are always minor chords, right? And then your 7th chord is always the diminished. So in the F major now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. All right. So that's why F is a major chord, right? F major. And then for 2, it will be a minor chord. Instead of G major, we play G minor, okay? All right, so that's why I play G minor here. All right, and then the 3 chord is also a minor chord. So that's why we play a regular A minor. And then for B flat, we play here. We put our thumb here on the B flat, put your middle on D, as in Daniel, and then your pinky on F to create a B flat major, okay? That's how you create a B flat major chord. So you play, because your 1, 4, 5s are always major in the major scale, that's why you play a major chord on the 4 chord in F, B flat major, right? 5 chord is also major, that's why we play a C major chord here. And then 6 chord will be a minor chord, right? Great. So that's why we play D minor. And then for the 7th chord, we'll play a diminished chord, which is a E diminished chord here. All right, great. So also practice, playing those chords 1 through 7 in the key of F major. And then here's an example again of How Great Is Our God, how to use the major scale, right? Now we know our 1 through 7 chords in the key of F major. And here's an example of how you can also play, How Great Is Our God in the key of F major, right? So it's the same. In other words, the reason why the number system is so important is that the chord progression never changes. The chord progression pattern, 1, 6, 4, 5, it doesn't change, right? All right, so we're going to be in the key of F. How great, one, our God, Would you sing with me how great 6 is our God? Oh, we'll see how great is our God. 1. So again, just follow the left hand just to keep it simple. How great is our God. 1. Sing with me how great 6 is our God. I always see how great 4. How great 5 is our God. Alright, now with the triads in the right hand. How great is our God. Sing with me how great is our God. All will see how great is our God. How great 1 is our God. Sing with me, going to 6. How great D minor is our God. Oh, we'll see how great 4 B flat. How great C is our God. All right, well, that was a quick introduction of the major scale and how it can help you to start learning to play in other keys. Hopefully, this has been a very useful tutorial for you. And also remember to like and subscribe if you've been blessed by this tutorial. And be on the lookout for more tutorials coming your way.